The prison without guards. The screen did not turn off. That bothered me more than if it had. I stood in the control room, watching the corridor I did not recognize. The closed door remained closed. The image did not flicker. No distortion. No delay. Whatever space that camera observed was real, in the same way the rest of this place was real, solid, enforced, unquestioning. The presence of another person should have meant urgency. It did not. What I felt instead was momentum. The system had progressed to the next phase, and I was still here, still functional, still moving through cycles that no longer aligned with shock or fear. That terrified me, more than the prison itself. I left the control room at a run, not panicked, focused. I moved faster than I ever had before, taking corners sharply, cutting through corridors, with intent rather than curiosity. My breathing echoed in my ears, harsh and ragged. Sweat soaked through the gray fabric of my clothes almost immediately. The prison responded. Lights brightened ahead of me, dimmed behind me. Not dramatically, subtly, enough to guide without commanding. Doors that had always stood open remained open. But I sensed alignment now, as if paths were being suggested. I ignored them. I descended, stairwell after stairwell, deeper than I had ever gone. The air grew colder, heavier, tinged with a faint ozone scent that prickled at the back of my throat. My calves burned. My knees trembled. At the bottom, the architecture changed. The walls were no longer smooth concrete. They were segmented, reinforced, ribbed with thick metal braces that ran vertically like the bones of some buried creature. The floor vibrated faintly beneath my feet. Machinery. Real machinery. I followed the vibration. The corridor ended at a massive steel door. Unlike every other door in the facility, this one was sealed. No handle, no visible lock, just a narrow vertical seam running down its center. I pressed my palms against it. Warm, alive. I stepped back just as the seam widened. The door did not open. It unfolded. Panels slid inward with hydraulic precision, revealing a cavernous space beyond. The sound that poured out was deafening after days of near silence, grinding metal, rhythmic impacts, the low, constant roar of something vast and operational. I stepped inside. The room was enormous. Catwalks crisscrossed the space at different heights, suspended over a deep mechanical pit. Below them, massive cylindrical structures rotated slowly, their surfaces etched with symbols and markings I did not recognize, but instinctively understood as functional rather than decorative. This was the heart. The prison was not just walls and corridors. It was a machine. I moved along the catwalk, gripping the railing tightly as vibrations traveled up through my bones. Heat radiated from below, mixing with the cold air in nauseating waves. Far beneath me, conveyor-like platforms moved in looping patterns, empty and waiting. Then, one of them wasn't. A platform rose from the depths, carrying something wrapped in white fabric. A body. My body tensed before my mind caught up. The platform locked into place with a heavy clang. Mechanical arms descended, unfolding with surgical grace. They did not rush. They adjusted the body's position with care, aligning it precisely at the center of the platform. I did not look away. The fabric peeled back. The person beneath it was alive. Barely. The chest rose and fell erratically. Electrodes clung to the skin. Tubes disappeared into the throat and arms. The face was slack, expressionless, drained of identity. Preparation. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This was not containment. It was processing. The platform began to descend. I ran. I ran along the catwalk, boots pounding against metal, ignoring the vertigo screaming at me to slow down. Warning lights flared to life around the room, bathing everything in pulsating red. For the first time, the system acknowledged urgency. Catwalk sections ahead of me retracted without warning, folding away into the walls. I skidded to a halt inches from open air, heart hammering violently. Below me, the machinery churned, patient and unstoppable. I turned and sprinted the other way. The prison reacted faster now. Gates slammed down behind me. The floor tilted, forcing me forward. Steam vented from the walls, scalding hot, blinding me momentarily. I stumbled, caught myself on a railing, felt skin blister. Pain grounded me. Pain reminded me I was still here. I climbed. Ladders emerged from the walls, then retracted just as I reached them. I leapt gaps I would never have dared attempt. Days earlier, fear sharpened everything. Vision, timing, instinct. I reached a terminal embedded into the wall, the first I had ever seen. I slammed my palm against it. The screen lit up, not with text, with symbols, flowcharts, cycles. I understood none of it consciously, but my mind grasped the implication instantly. This system did not imprison people. It converted them. Mental patterns, behavioral compliance, cognitive erosion measured and refined over time until resistance disappeared completely. The prison did not release inmates. It finished them. The catwalk beneath me shuddered violently. I looked back. The platform carrying the unconscious body had stopped descending. The machinery paused. For the first time since I arrived, the system hesitated. I laughed, a short, broken sound that tore out of my throat. I had disrupted the process. That was my mistake. The lights went out, not dimmed. Gone. Emergency illumination kicked in instantly, painting the room in harsh white beams that cut through darkness like knives. Alarms howled. Real alarms, sharp and piercing. The prison no longer guided. It hunted. I ran blindly, following memory and instinct as sections of the facility rearranged themselves around me. Corridors collapsed. New ones opened. Staircases twisted at impossible angles. The prison was no longer recursive. It was adaptive. I burst back into familiar territory, lungs on fire, vision narrowing. The cells blurred past me. Doors that had always been open now slammed shut violently, one after another, sealing off paths. I dove through one just before it closed. My cell. The door sealed behind me with a final, resonant clang. The lights flickered once, then stabilized. The bed stood exactly where it always had. The toilet, the sink. The room was unchanged. My chest heaved as I collapsed against the wall, sliding down until I sat on the floor, trembling uncontrollably. My hands shook violently, adrenaline crashing out of my system. The prison had won, not because it was stronger, because it was patient. The food arrived moments later, warm, measured, calm, an offering. I stared at it for a long time before pushing it away. The lights dimmed, not to signal night, to signal completion. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the system recalibrate around me. My body ached. My mind raced, then slowed, then dulled. Somewhere deep in the facility, machinery resumed its rhythm. The platform descended. The next prisoner entered the cycle, and I remained. Not because I was trapped, but because, slowly and irrevocably, the idea of leaving no longer carried weight.